We have Joshua Hepple, Matt Ailey, Jon Bradfield, and Christopher John-Slater. Thank you all for joining. Now you can go. So if you are not already aware, Animal is a brand new play. This is the world premiere production. It had its world premiere last month at Hope Mill Theatre in Manchester, and also was at Tobacco Factory in Bristol, and now has transferred here to London. Joshua Hepple, Josh, is a disability activist, a writer, a very advanced legal scholar with multiple degrees, and soon to complete his PhD. And I actually know Josh from my local dog park, which is kind of interesting. And Josh has written before about his own experiences on Grindr as a disabled man, and in fact did write a piece in The Guardian some years ago that got picked up. Josh had an idea that he wanted to write a play. He was also a theatre reviewer. He had an idea that he wanted to write a play about sexuality and disability. He was then inspired to approach this man, Jon Bradfield. Jon is a playwright who is very well known, in particular, for 12 years, I think, of co-writing hugely popular pantomimes.
Hugely filthy.
Hugely filthy pantomimes. And so from that, a collaboration was born. You guys obviously started talking about this, and Animal is the final result of that collaboration. So, Josh, can I start with you? Why did you, having written in other forms about disability and sexuality, why did you envisage it as a play? What attracted you to putting this into theatrical form? And then, Jon, as well, what attracted you with that idea?
Oh, I think I had about 5 years as a reviewer in Edinburgh.
I think, Josh, he did about 5 years as a reviewer in Edinburgh Fringe.
Not much representation.
Yeah, not much representation.
And I just really enjoyed Edinburgh. And I always thought it's my own show at Edinburgh.
And he always wanted to have his own show.
And then something about the pantomime. It wasn't about disability at all, but I had reviewed so much comedy.
Mm-hmm. And then there was something about the pantomime. There wasn't anything about disability about it, but at that point you'd reviewed so much comedy.
Something about John's style of writing changed with my sense of humour.
And something about John's filthy writing very much changed Josh's sense of humour.
It wasn't so much the content, but how it was written and that's essentially style that tells this style will tell my story very well.
Yeah, it was very much the style, not so much the content, that would help tell the story very, very well.
Editorialising with your face there.
I don't use subtext.
We know.
And to go from pantomimes to Animal, what did you think, Jon, when Josh approached you with this idea?
I mean, the idea was so out there and rude that it didn't. I mean, it wasn't like the greatest of leap to what I'm comfortable with, but I suppose I think I had a lot of rights to say this. I'm not good at ideas, like finding the big idea. So here was a really good idea, and you know, like so. I raised in the program yesterday, but so you have good drama has someone who wants something and an obstacle, right? And if you just reduce that to the wanking bit at the start, right? There's someone who wants something and an obstacle sort of contained within that, but then that sort of becomes the whole shape of the whole show, in a sense. But yeah, no, it was fascinating. I didn't know, at least not well, anyone who was certainly not severely physically disabled, and so it was new to me.
Yeah.
So I thought, great, and I'd just taken redundancy and was looking to fill my time with writing, and I thought this could be a project.
Yeah. And we should say that Christopher is not playing Josh. David is not Josh. None of the characters are real, but it is a world that is familiar to Josh and that you became familiar with too. Christopher, how excited were you when you got the script?
I was very excited. I was very, I was kind of nervous about the size of the script and the fact that it was colliding with a disabled world and the LGBTQ world and meshing that together. But it was kind of like my Hamlet in a way.
Your Hamlet.
So kind of I got the massive role that I could interpret in any way, and I think we've chosen the best way for David to live in a way.
Josh, you watched this evening, and I was kind of looking over at you a few times and seeing how much you were enjoying watching it, and Christopher's performance. How many times have you seen it now? Have you counted?
Lots of rehearsals and then on top of that proper each on.
Yeah, so a lot of rehearsals, and then on top of that, probably about 8 or 9.
I like watching everyone is laughs at different jokes. And I like to see if I can anticipate what they will laugh at.
Yeah, he finds that every audience laughing at different bits of the show, and he tries to anticipate which bits they're laughing at.
What might be different?
Yeah, and what might be different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When Josh and I were chatting on WhatsApp today ahead of this evening, and he suggested a question I thought was so brilliant, and I put this to everyone on the stage with me, that that it is, one of the challenges with this play and the production, which is directed by a wonderful director, Bronagh Lagan. How do I pronounce that?
Lagan.
Okay, thank you. It has to be handled correctly, doesn't it? So Josh was saying, how do we talk about sex and disability and portray sex and disability without objectification or fetishization? I can't even say that word. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, was that something that concerned you all when you were putting this play into life?
I think it's something that we talked about quite earlier. I mean, there is some fetishization in the play, obviously, with Ray and his dirty little boy bits, but I think we talked about that alongside another thing that was important to Josh, which was that obviously he wanted it to be a funny play, but he didn't want the humour to be about David's impairments, about him being disabled, like that. He didn't want the sort of the character self-deprecate in order to win the audience over. So he does, obviously, at quite low points, he's quite brutal about himself, but we never wanted that to be, even if he's making a joke, for that to be at the audience. So I'm slightly stepping away from what you asked, but I think they're similar.
I thought sometimes disabled stand up can be very self-deprecating. I never just not do that.
So Josh thinks that a lot of disabled stand-up can be very self-deprecating, and he says that Animal doesn't do that.
Sometimes I drag disabled community on the bus for the sake of a cheap guy.
And that sometimes the disabled community throws itself under a bus for the sake of a gag. Is that right? Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that.
No, I mean, you're showing so sensibly, I think, and again, Josh talks about this, it's talked about in the play, but also if you have not got it yet, this brilliant play text published by Nick Hearn Books, and it includes a foreword, an introduction from Josh as well as Jon. And you talk about that, it's about how you want to portray that sex is part of it's the core of human existence, and if you remove that from somebody, you're removing part of the humanity, and I think that comes across so clearly. Is that something that you feel as well?
Yeah. I can say that about it. Next question.
Very good. I'm putting words in mouths. Okay, there was a hand here. Let me turn to the audience.
I thought it incredibly moving.
Thank you.
And what was so wonderful, truly there was a happy ending, which I think was just brought it to a whole wonderful level. Thank you for the wonderful happy ending of a wonderful, wonderful play. I found it so incredibly moving. And I wish you all the very best success. And some more writing of this calibre, I'm sure you've got.
Is that the question? I'm just.
I liked that.
It was just incredible. It was just incredible.
Okay.
It filled me with so much joy, and I'm sure everybody else here too.
I have
You have a question, Glenn?
I have two questions.
Okay, well, let's hear the first one. We'll
First of all, how in God's name did you make this so life-affirming? Second, please tell me the genesis of the title. Animal.
Can I do the last one first?
Yeah.
So I feel like I can. Oh, are you like?
Yeah, because it's a line. You say the line, don't you?
Yeah, although actually it wasn't actually that line. There was a line in the play where just after Manny, David has seduced Manny, and Derek says, "You don't think you've done anything wrong?" He says, "Of course, I know I've done something wrong. I'm not an animal."
Michael. He seduces Michael.
No,
Michael. Sorry, they look really similar. Right? So that was in the play. So I think that's what it hit on, because that seems that's a clear differentiation of what it is to be animal, basic needs, basic drives, and human with all the sophisticated and complicated stuff that goes around that. But then sparring off from that, there's the fact that David so often is having to think about basic survival needs that doesn't leave as much room in your head and time for the other stuff that makes us human. It's just as sex is a part of the human experience, all the other stuff. So that felt part of it, and then of course animal instincts as well.
It's also a terrible hashtag.
Yeah.
Awful. But you get a lot of puppy videos, don't you?
I have to say, I feel so naive. I was like, I didn't understand when I first saw this artwork. Like, what is the significance of an aubergine and a banana? I get it.
What did you get it when the two?
Yeah. And the life affirming. Yes, it is life affirming.
I can't write a scene without a joke. Actually, the sexual assault scene doesn't have a joke, and because I'm so used to writing comedy, I then sit there going, "No one's laughing. Why aren't they laughing? It's rubbish." And it's not a funny scene. I don't know. I mean, I think that's just by what's the word? Meter. That's. I think that's how I write. I do jokes and jolly and stuff, and yeah.
But laughter doesn't necessarily mean life affirming, does it?
No.
I like we want to think but David was so hope.
You wanted to write David with some hope.
But I don't know if it was the happy, perfect ending, but in
I think it's in a way. Sorry,
No, just you don't know if it is necessarily a happy or perfect ending.
it's
it opens up hope.
Yes, but it does open up hope.
it's a beginning as well as an ending. I mean, I don't suppose I was looking to create necessarily a happy ending, but I certainly think that with a play like this, you could have a sad ending or a happy ending. Then you might as well give it a happy ending, right? Because ultimately the material up to there is the same. But yeah, I think it's about. It certainly wasn't going to end in a wedding.
And, who knows? Christopher, what do you think? Do you think it's a happy ending? Do you find it life-affirming?
I think it's entirely up to the audience, really. I think, and that is kind of the way life is. You know, in that moment, yes, David is happy, but who could say the very next minute something tragic happened, and I don't know, like Derek. They're gonna cut the finger off.
But I think that's bang on, right? Because actually, you know, David just doesn't exist the minute the play finishes. But we've seen enough of his life to know that things are going to be complicated, but they could be beautiful.
Yeah. Did you want to add, Josh?
Oh yeah, we've been giggling down here about the repeated references to happy ending. Yeah, so for gay men it is an ongoing. You think it's an ongoing journey?
Of course, every relationship is different, every mind is different. But we do that monogamy as one person forever.
Yes. So yeah, obviously each relationship is different, each man is different, and you don't present, or you aim not to present monogamy as one person forever.
I know objective.
Yes, as the final objective between David and me.
I know that was disabled.
But you don't think that? Yeah, that's not anything particularly to do with being disabled.
One other thing I'll just share that Josh and I were messaging today. He said, this does amuse me. He said that he's a very accomplished person. He has many law degrees, nearly his PhD. You know, he's done a lot of things, but he didn't get any attention for that. It was only he got attention for going public with saying that he can't wank himself.
Say that again.
Amazing.
And John's amazing.
And
right.
John's amazing. Okay, other hands in the audience, please. Yes, there.
So, when writing a play, you don't know exactly how to get, you know, what the production's going to be like, you don't know what your writing will be always, so there's always these things that kind of, flexibility has to be kind of baked into it a little bit. I'm guessing with a main character who has disability, maybe you don't know who you'll be able to cast or what the production will be. So in the process, did you have to bake in any flexibility thinking about that, or did you just write the line and hope it will work out?
Can I interject a little bit before we get on to the writing line? Was it important? How important was it that a disabled actor played David?
A good one.
A good disabled actor.
For me, it seems slightly more vital than it did for you, I think, at times. But I think we knew that it would have been. I mean, it was very important for authenticity and because there'd have been a massive fucking scandal if we had. It was really important. It was never a question that we would have a non-disabled actor.
Okay.
It's what made it.
Yeah. And then to
And Joanna.
and he's very good at it. And so to carry on with what the
Baked in
Theatre
flexibility. So certainly something like we certainly knew that someone who had we wouldn't in my head the character basically Josh was the model, right, in terms of physical impairments, but we knew we wouldn't have someone who had that mix identically because everyone's different. Also, I think it's fair to say that you wouldn't be able to do like 8 shows a week, probably. The speech impairment is referred to in the script, but you don't know whether an actor's going to have that. I kind of hope so. But it does, it says in the notes at the start of the script, it says there is freedom for actors to put in more repetitions or less, depending on, if they wanted to. Like, I'm fine with that changing every night. We haven't done that, but I think we've found a way to make it work. But that was, and actually we got to the point of casting, and we cast David, was it November? December? And I honestly actually did have a couple of days of going, oh God, maybe I've written an uncastable part.
Before we took audition, there was a lot of but
Yeah, so before you did the auditions, there was a lot of adaptation, did you say, or discussion about anxiety. Sorry.
but Jane did a very good job.
Yes.
But
But Jane, the casting director, did a very good job of finding you.
Although actually, Josh and I had both separately seen you in All of Us at the National Theatre. So we suggested that we invite you in. But it's at the minute we sort. I'm not just saying this to blow smoke, but the minute we, it's very like when you're on an audition panel, you're very tough. When you're on an audition panel, you're the one, you're aware that you're the ones in power, and then as soon as someone comes in and they're just perfect for the part, you just spend the next hour going, oh God, did we seem like weirdos? Which is exactly how we felt when Chris came in.
And Derek?
Yeah, that's Chris, did you speak to Josh much when you were developing the character of David?
I kind of watched it. Sounds really weird, but I kind of watched him in the corner kind of thing, which sounds a lot more weird than it is. Yeah. But it was kind of, I didn't want to just copy and paste.
Okay.
The character. I wanted to bring my own thoughts and my own words, and me and Bronagh and Kathy, our movement director, kind of sat and went like, okay, this is what I can do, and then this is what David can do. How do we match the words together?
This kind of comes back to the questions about sensitivity. You mentioned a movement director. Did you have an intimacy director? There's some very, very,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lovely Robbie.
Robbie,
You ain't got a Robbie.
What?
You ain't sat here doing nothing.
Doing nothing. Yeah. Robbie led us through not just the choreography of the intimacy scenes, and they are very specifically choreographed, each of them, but also brought to it a sort of holistic process around that as well. So every day we do check-ins before the show, and we sort of have an understanding of how to of the eye contact, very important, breathing, so that we're sort of in tune with each other when we do it. And hopefully it doesn't look choreographed so much on stage when we do it, but it is very specifically the order of things, which builds up a trust, and really did change this show. And has helped with confidence for all of us, I think.
Yeah. The doubling is intentional, by the way, isn't it? You say in the script that, you know, the characters are double, and I thought, Matt, particularly, you know, the doubling of Derek and
Nuno.
that, yeah, I mean, you know, the caregiver with someone who assaults David in that way is really impactful. Okay, I think we are running out of time. Let me just see. Anyone else have questions, and we'll hear them all. Yeah.
It was a straightforward question. Do people feel that Grindr was a positive or a negative force at the end of this production? Because it's quite conflicting all the way through, whether it's helping or... I don't know. I just wanted to...
I don't even think it's Grindr. I mean, I'm on the dating apps. It's depressing as hell.
Things I felt like I could relate to, but then I felt wrong for relating to them, because obviously there's more depth to and complexity there.
Yeah.
I think it's...
They haven't sponsored the production, have they?
No, they haven't. In fact, I don't know if they know we've got all the branding, but I think it's neutral in the way that it's the landscape that we have, and that's the landscape that we meet people in, and it's about how people behave within that landscape and the rules that they establish within there. What do you think?
I thought it was just me. It was interesting. I mean, it was, you know, the same level of rejection. It was great to see that you could put a lot of jokes in through the messaging, but it was distinctly relatable in a way. Just that that everyone experiences. You know, that. I mean, it was a rejection for a specific reason, but it's also, I think everyone experiences that it's not really a positive.
And it's cold, isn't it? Because there's no closure or resolution. It's just this stranger going no to you.
Yeah.
You comment on that. It's as much about hookup culture generally as it is about, you know.
Exactly.
Because brilliant, and that was
So you have good days and good dates and bad days. Good days and bad days.
And good days and bad days. And actually, a guy cancelled a couple of hours before the show because it was raining, which I think is what it says in there.
And that's in the script, yes, and that is in the script. Very much.
we wrote some of that almost 4 years ago. So it carries on.
Yeah.
Carries on.
So about the rain cancelling that, you wrote that 4 years ago, and yet here we are, and it carries on.
Yeah.
It carries on. So it does well.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Shall I ask how many people in the audience are on Grindr? No.
Hang on.
That's a huge laugh in the background. Okay, there were so many other questions I wanted to ask. We also talked about, is this play activism itself? I know, John, you said the purpose of all plays should really be to evoke empathy, and it's not agitprop itself, but the whole act of...
Yeah, I think Josh's impulse for putting it on, apart from sheer ego, was like, is absolutely, as he said before, it's activism. He was seeing shows, there wasn't much representation. And I embraced that. When I was writing it, I didn't want to make a play that was too didactic, that was too protesty. Not because there isn't a space for that, but because that's not what I was interested in doing. I think it's about empathy. I think it's not even about whether you like or dislike the character, because essentially you sort of are the character when you're watching drama. You're going through their experiences with them, and you walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to mention when we were talking about the screens. Brilliant use of video.
It's great, right?
Yeah, and so shout out to set designer Gregor Donnelly and video designer Matt Powell. I think that's right. Isn't it? You've got an amazing team that's put this whole production together. Okay, so finally, coming back to the beginning, can we see future collaborations between Josh Hepple and Jon Bradfield? And if not, what else individually are you doing?
I'm actually, in fact, I was literally sat in the bar just then scribbling on early drafts of this year's pantomime.
Oh, no, you weren't.
Oh, yes,
And that is?
every time, and I never expect it. It's so good. Sleeping Beauty takes a prick at the Charing Cross Theatre. And otherwise, I'm sort of, I'm in endless TV development hell on a couple of things, but we'll see what happens.
And Josh?
I teach quite a lot.
You do a lot of teaching.
Social work, videos,
On social work, mainly.
videos on animals, some kind of book,
May or may not turn animal into some kind of book.
more practical guides for disabled teenagers.
A practical guide for disabled teenagers. That's cool.
Well, actually, let's end on that then.
Actually, it's supposed to add.
Yes.
Sorry, the other thing, I mean, in terms of collaboration, there is a pilot script of a TV version of this on someone's desk at the moment. We will see. But,
that's exciting. That's very exciting.
More development in hand, but we'll see.
So, but I think that's a really important point that Josh was saying, and I want to ask that of Josh and Christopher. If you were talking to younger gay disabled men starting their dating odyssey, what dating advice might you give them?
Ganja. I just think go for it, and it's okay to be sad on the bad days and enjoy it when it goes well.
Yeah, go for it, and it's okay to be sad on the bad days and enjoy it when it's good.
What would you say to straight teenagers?
Sorry,
not to out you as straight.
Get anyone wherever the consequences are.
Oh.
Okay, and finally, Animal continues here at the Park Theatre until, Matt, when?
20th of May.
Okay, so audience, you now are our ambassadors for this amazing, groundbreaking show, right? Aren't
Yeah.
they? They were a good audience, right?
Great audience.
So wait. No, so I want you to take your ambassadorship seriously. You need to come again. You need to tell all your friends. And if you are on social media, we're going to do a group shot. And please, will you take photos and share that on all of your platforms? Is that okay? Great. Thank you. And please join me in thanking Josh and Matt and John and Christopher.